Right now, we have something that's happening to over 1 million Americans, and nobody's talking about it. What's happening? We have over 1 million Americans who have negative equity. They're underwater on their mortgages. And most people right now have no idea what's coming next. Because if this trend continues, we're actually going to have a potential trigger for the downslide of the entire economy. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what's going on with housing, with these mortgages that are underwater, why it's happening, why you should care, and what it really means to you and your money, and potentially what you could do about it. You can't control everything, but you can control what happens on your end. So let's first talk about what's happening. So we have over 1 million Americans who have negative equity. So what negative equity is what most people think of as being underwater. So it means where you say have a mortgage for 400,000 and now the house is only worth 350,000, you have negative equity of 50,000. Reverse side was when values were going up, you had a mortgage of 400,000 and now suddenly it's worth 450,000. You had positive equity of 450,000. Here's the catch. If you have positive equity, you can sell your house and walk away with some money. If you have negative equity, can't sell so easily. And here's the problem. So in 2025 alone, we had a approximate surge of 60% of people of mortgages that have gone underwater. That is huge. And that's in 2025. We are ending the first quarter, the first 3 months of 2026, and we don't have those numbers yet. We don't know how much worse this is getting. But let me tell you something. It's definitely not getting any better. So, because of this, we're seeing some markets that are getting hit worse. So that's where these things are happening. So it's Florida, Texas, California. Those are some of the states that are getting hit the hardest. Obviously, some areas, they're still going up and they're okay. And they're thinking, what are you talking about? There's no problem. Well, these things don't happen everywhere all at once. They happen in pockets and then they start triggering. So if it's not happening where you are, you're lucky. If it's happening where you are, unlucky. The other reasons that this is happening, though, it's not just the prices falling, it's because people couldn't afford to buy homes because the prices kept going up and interest rates were higher and people weren't making as much and you needed larger down payments, which people don't have savings, which means once you start having that issue where you have these higher prices, you have people who can't afford it. Now, if you put your house up and you don't get really any buyers, and then other people start putting their house up, prices have to come down or you take it off the market, which we've seen a lot of. We've seen a lot of sellers taking it off the market and then they come back later and sometimes they're completely irrational. But this is just the beginning. This is where this phase starts. So yes, they're going to continue to fall and that's going to make more and more people be underwater. The other thing we need to know here is that there's the way this functions, it ends up being more like a roller coaster. So everything's going fine, and everything keeps ticking up. And then it goes slowly. And once you get to the top, that first car starts to go over. And it's kind of slow. And those people in the front kind of feel like something's happening, but it's not much. And then the second car gets up there and it starts pushing it. And then by the time the third car gets up there, it is just going down as fast as it can. And that's what happens. Everything else starts pushing. So this isn't just the values falling and the people who, aren't buying. What happens is we start to get a cascade because unfortunately, the way our whole economy works is when houses are sold, well, that helps things like contractors. People go and get fresh paint and flooring and they go buy new furniture. If houses aren't selling, we have a lot of different industries that get affected negatively. And then we have less sales being made there, less transactions. We have businesses that start to go under or just have to cut people, and it all triggers. So everything becomes this snowball effect. And nobody talks about this. Nobody really thinks about it. And everybody's been expecting values to just keep going up. So they're not really paying attention to what's happening at this moment. So why this really matters. The fact is that for the everyday American, if you own a home, that is where most of your wealth is. That's where they feel like they're wealthy when home values are up. And when home values go down, they feel like they don't have as much, even though you didn't really have it because it's just a number on paper. But they feel poor and then they spend less. And it's not just the houses that don't sell and the people don't move. If you're selling less, well, maybe you don't go buy that new patio furniture this summer because the old stuff will work, right? All of these things start to add up. And then sooner rather than later, the economy slows down. And we have so many things that are slowing down the economy, but this is just one of them. Now, this is kind of how the 2008 crash started, although there was other things because there was the way the mortgage bonds were all grouped together and sold off and the whole debacle that happened there. They also, blame the everyday American who got the liar loans. And let's say nobody was really the one catalyst for last time. Everybody played their part. But this time, there's so many other moving pieces because the rest of the economy is way worse off than it was last time. So this really has the potential to be worse than 2008. And right now, you're probably thinking, okay, that's all well and good. Maybe you're in an area where values are still going up and you're thinking, why should I even care? So the fact is that the equity cushion that you have, it might not be what you think it is. And just because you have equity right now does not mean that it will be there in 6 months. So you might have a problem where you're not able to sell or you're not able to refinance. And that's the kicker. A lot of people think, well, I've had my home maybe 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I should be able to refinance. The fact is, if your value dropped and you don't have enough equity, yeah, they're not going to refinance you. So all of this ends up turning into the point where we start having more layoffs and then the risk increases for everybody. And then we have a different snowball that occurs. So right now, the fact is too that with more people who start to be underwater, eventually we start having more foreclosures. We have more people who get pushed into renting. So rents will, in the short term, probably stay a lot higher, and maybe even in the long term, because you have more people who are going to get pushed into the point of not having a choice to rent. It's rent, live with somebody you know, or become homeless. That's where you get to, because you're not going to be able to buy another home right away. So if that's not bad enough, let's talk about what else could get hit with all of this. So now, if you're talking about stocks, we have banks, we have construction companies, we have different consumer spending or consumer companies. Think of like the contractors and the furniture and the home goods and those type of places that they're not getting the people coming in. So we have a different group of companies that are going to get hit hard because all of these wheels need to keep going and working together to keep everybody going. It's kind of insane the way everything is interconnected. But unfortunately, that's the way our society is set up. So now this actually should mean more to you than you realize, because a housing downturn leads to job losses, which means even if you are in good standing, credit is going to get harder to get, and it's going to put more of a pressure on everyday cost of living. So that being said, let's talk about what you can actually do here. First, if you own a home, check your loan to value ratio, make friends with a realtor, see if they'll give you a quick value. Don't take up too much of their time because doing it for free, but see where you stand and kind of keep an eye on it. Make sure you know where you actually stand with how much equity you have. Avoid taking on any new debt. And if you can, try to get a 3 to 6 month savings buffer in case you happen to lose your job or something happens and you need the money to pay that mortgage. That needs to be money that is set aside for housing, right? Your housing, maybe your car, but it's the essentials. That's where you're looking at there. If you're near the edge of not being able to pay, maybe you think you might be losing your job sometime soon, See if you can refinance into something, or if you can get an equity before anything, goes bad. So if you can get the equity loan or line, either one, the line's typically better. But if you can get something to buffer, you're going to be so much better off. And then we're going to focus on survival positioning, which is going to be having that emergency cushion for the worst case scenario. So let's say you can't save enough for 3 to 6 months and you do lose your job. We need to have you having some money to be able to get some kind of place where you can have shelter. That's our first priority. And then we need to focus on getting extra income. And I say this time and time again, some kind of side hustle, something that you know to do. If you don't know how to do anything, get a new skill and figure something out from there. And then remember, we have to try to stay flexible as everything changes, because as this unfolds and things get a little worse, we don't know what's going to come. So because we don't know exactly, but we've seen it before, and history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And this is rhyming really close to last time. You just need to be prepared. So I'm asking you, do you think that this is just another blip in the road, or is this the next domino that's going to fall and housing is going to go down? Let me know in the comments. Tell me what you think about this. And until next time, think differently, take control, be a renegade. I'll see you in the next video.